Yuri is a little gooner like you whose world shatters after his parents die and leave him with nothing. However, everything changes when a freaky maid moves in with him and starts doing everything to please him. It all starts when Truck-kun sends Yuri's parents to the afterlife, leaving him with no money or prospects. With his finances on life support, all of his servants leave him too, forcing the little boy to fend for himself. Initially, he believes he can live on his own, but after a few days of surviving on burnt toast and cup noodles, he realizes he's pretty useless. Just then, a girl with huge melons and hypnotizing violet eyes arrives at his house and asks Yuri to hire her as his maid. It doesn't make sense to him, as he's neither rich nor famous, so he clearly tells her he can't afford a maid right now. However, the girl says that she doesn't need money in exchange, just a place to live. Yuri finds the offer very tempting, but at the same time, he thinks the maid is suspicious, so he turns her down. However, after she insists on staying, he takes one good look into her eyes and gets rizzed up, finally agreeing to let her stay. From then on, Yuri starts living with his new maid, but he can't help but feel suspicious about her, especially since she's too good at everything that she does. Her food tastes better than Michelin restaurants, the house sparkles after she cleans it, and his clothes look brand new after she washes them. All of this just points toward one single fact, and Yuri decides to confront her about it one day. He tells the maid he has finally figured out that she is a witch who has cast a spell on him to rizz him up, but she decides to play along and says it is true. Yuri's single brain cell believes her, and he blurts that it finally makes sense why his heart keeps racing when he sees her, and why he's always so curious about her. This makes the maid blush, so she excuses herself, later admitting to herself that she was just joking. Later that night, Yuri has a nightmare in which his maid, now dressed up as a witch, tries to feed him a weird stew. After he wakes up screaming, he heads to the kitchen to drink some water, only to find her cooking something up in the middle of the night. He wakes up the next morning to a 5-star breakfast laid out on the table, only to spot a stew similar to the one he saw in his dream. Yuri quickly accuses the maid of putting something weird in his food, so she decides to play along and says she just made a love potion to make him fall in love with her.
Yeah, boy.
The dumb loser believes her again and says this must be what she was cooking up last night, which explains why her food tastes so good to him and why he can't keep his eyes off of her. The girl blushes like an idiot once again while mentally recalling that she was simply teaching herself some Gordon Ramsay tutorials, as she believes she's really bad at cooking. Later that day, Yuri watches the maid do her chores and realizes that he knows nothing about her, not even her name, even though she knows everything about him. Just then, she suddenly calls him by his name, which startles him, so he questions what she's plotting now. The girl says she's just addressing him like a servant is supposed to, but Yuri's virgin brain believes only married people are supposed to call each other by their names. He says that if she addresses him like that, it'll appear like they are madly in love, which creeps her out again, so she runs away. This makes Yuri even more anxious, and he worries that the maid might sell his very high in-demand personal information to a dangerous person.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
He quickly heads to his father's study and pulls out all the old employment records to find that the maid's name is Lilith. At dinner time, Yuri waits for Lilith to address him by his name again, but she only calls him Master, so he asks her to use his name from now on. Lilith says that if she does that, it'll look like they are too close, but Yuri has grown mentally in the last few hours, so he believes that understanding each other is far more important for being in love than calling people by name. Lilith is disappointed for a moment, but when Yuri asks her to tell him things about herself too, she smiles and says she will. That night, Lilith stares at a picture of Yuri and recalls how she immediately packed up and left her house as soon as she learned about Yuri's parents' passing. The next morning, Yuri wakes up to a closet full of clean clothes and a delicious breakfast. However, since he's committed to his role of a douchebag, he still believes Lilith is suspicious. Just then, the doorbell rings, and Lilith brings in a parcel containing the latest video game that she ordered for Yuri.
It should have been me, not him!
But instead of getting down on his knees and thanking such a goddess, Yuri continues his paranoia streak and accuses Lilith of trying to manipulate him by giving him gifts. Lilith's sadistic side enters the chat too, and instead of denying it, she plays along, saying that she's trying to make him hers by winning him over. Hearing this, Yuri lashes out, saying that he is the one who will make her his, not the other way around, which makes Lilith turn bright red from embarrassment. Later that day, Lilith keeps coming into Yuri's study room using different excuses, so he tells her to stay in the room, as he doesn't want her to feel lonely. After staying for a few hours, she excuses herself for some reason, but Yuri can't help but feel curious, so he follows after her. He finds her sneaking out of his house and finds it suspicious. However, he quickly realizes she just wanted to play with a stray cat. As he watches her smile and make cat noises, Yuri's heart skips a beat. Just then, Lilith spots him too, and asks if he would like to pet the cat, but Yuri turns her down. She playfully asks if he would like her to pet him too, but Yuri gets so flustered that he accidentally reveals he is actually scared of cats, before telling her she looks way cuter than a cat, so he would rather pet her.
Yeah, boy.
As Lilith blushes, the cat jumps off her lap and starts hissing at Yuri, clearly startled by his shouting. Seeing this, Lilith offers to help Yuri get over his fear of cats, but Yuri puts on his big boy pants and claims he can do it on his own, as he is the master of this house. Lilith finds it amusing, so she leaves him by himself, while Yuri refocuses his attention on the cat. He finds a foxtail plant nearby and uses that to play with the cat. However, when it seems that his little trick won't work out, Lilith shows up with some leftover fish and tells him to feed the cat with it. This seems to do the trick, but just before Yuri finally pets it, a Giga Chad-coated cat shows up and makes him piss his pants, all while the little cat tries to defend him. This gesture touches Yuri so much that he finally acts like a man and shields the cat from the gangster, and finally wins it over. Sometime later, when Lilith returns to check up on him, she finds him petting the cat. Yuri claims that he has successfully tamed it, all while Lilith feels jealous and wishes that he were petting her instead. Yuri notices this and starts petting her head, making her blush bright red. Flustered, she excuses herself but accidentally drops the photo she keeps of him, which Yuri finds creepy. When he asks her about it, Lilith just plays along and says she keeps it so she can always watch him, but Yuri claims she should prefer to see the real thing instead, as he won't run away. Lilith still leaves the scene in embarrassment, all while Yuri imagines the voodoo rituals she could be performing by using his photo, and admits that she really is suspicious. Later that day, after Yuri finishes a very delicious lunch, he once again suspects that Lilith is using some underhanded means to make food this good. To find out the truth, he asks Lilith to teach him how to cook, but she flirts with him instead, wondering if he would like her to teach him hand in hand. It backfires when Yuri attacks her with a marriage proposal instead, stating that her cooking is so good that he wants to eat it for the rest of his life. This turns the baddie into a blushing mess again, so she quickly takes him to the kitchen to distract herself. As the first step to cooking a stew, Lilith teaches Yuri how to cut a carrot and stands behind him while guiding his hand. The closeness makes her blush, but when she mentions that it feels like they are hugging, Yuri swings the knife around and almost hurts her, proving he has the situational awareness of a microwave. Eventually, their episode on MasterChef comes to an end. However, when Yuri tastes the stew he made, he doesn't like it that much. Even though Lilith tries to glaze his mediocre skills, Yuri says it doesn't taste like it does when she makes it, only for Lilith to tease him, saying that it doesn't contain her secret ingredient, which is love. Yuri blurts out that it finally makes sense to him why his house is always so clean and his food always so tasty, blaming all of it on her love, all while Lilith blushes once again. Later that night, as Lilith cleans up Yuri's study, she finds a sketch of morning glories in his book, with a note stating that their color resembles her eyes. Meanwhile, as Yuri takes a bath, he wonders about what Lilith does throughout the night after she puts him to sleep. That night, as he starts dreaming about all the suspicious witchcraft she must be doing, Lilith sneaks into his room and watches him sleep. Yuri mumbles why she always goes to sleep after him, only for Lilith to state that she wants to watch him sleep, which is why she stays up late. The next morning, Lilith dresses up in her hot maid dress and gets ready for another day of glazing Yuri's mediocrity.
Oh, here we go again.
The following day, as Yuri finally resumes school after the death of his parents, Lilith makes excuses to make him stay a little while longer. She ties his shoelaces and fixes his hair. So Yuri mentions that she's acting like an anime waifu because this is exactly how his mother used to behave around his dad. As the girl blushes, Yuri says they used to act very lovey-dovey before he finally leaves for school. Meanwhile, a lavish limousine stops at the school gate, and a masked butler named Fuji Saki steps out of it. She then helps a Nepo baby named Tsukasa get out of the car, and after thanking her butler, she heads to school, only to spot Yuri. She quickly recalls that he recently lost his parents and wonders if he still misses them, all while Yuri replays how weird Lilith was acting in the morning. Later, as he enters the classroom, everyone starts whispering about his parents' death, so Tsukasa quietly takes the spot next to him and recalls their first meeting. A few years ago, their parents met at an event, and Yuri tried to initiate a conversation with her, even though Suukasa had social anxiety. She remembers how honest his eyes were back then, and tries to repay his kindness by saying hi to him today. However, the teacher enters the class just then and spoils her chances. She tries again during lunch, but someone interrupts her again, and Yuri slips away again. Meanwhile, as Lilith cleans the house, she wonders why Yuri seems to resist her advances so much and decides to just become better at what she does so he can accept her as his maid soon. Later, as Lilith steps out to pick up Yuri from his school, Fujisaki drives past her in the limo and recognizes her from somewhere. Meanwhile, as Yuri steps out of his school and sees his classmates being picked up by their families, he reminds himself that he's a strong, independent boy and doesn't need anyone. Just then, he spots Lilith at the school gate and runs towards her. Meanwhile, Suukasa, who was following him so she could talk to him, hides behind a tree to spy on this scandalous situation. As she watches them closely, Lilith asks Yuri if he is embarrassed by the relationship that they have, to which he replies that she is just so beautiful that he doesn't want anyone else to see her. Suukasa starts blushing like crazy and assumes they have been developing plot behind closed doors, as she imagines their relationship is something like the forbidden love tropes in Wattpad stories. Lilith apologizes to Yuri for this morning and says she just assumed he wanted to spend more time with her. Just as this confession creates even more questionable pictures in Suukasa's mind, Yuri blurts that he kept thinking about Lilith at school too, and cannot wait to spend all of his time with her at home. This makes Suukasa say her final prayer as she turns into the biggest shipper of this master-servant relationship, and scolds herself for trying to meddle. Just then, Fujisaki startles her from behind and asks why she wasn't coming to the car. Suukasa points at Yuri and Lilith, and Fujisaki finally meets eyes with the latter. Lilith politely says hi to Fujisaki and bows before Suukasa, asking her to keep being a good friend to Yuri. After Suukasa promises to do so, Lilith leaves, making Suukasa praise her hot maid outfit. However, before she can ask Fujisaki to work on her dressing sense, Fujisaki tells her she won't do it even in a million years. The next day, Lilith heads to the supermarket to buy groceries and accidentally leaves her phone at home. After Yuri returns from school, he cannot find her anywhere, so he assumes she is trying to play hide and seek. He quickly tells her to come out, as he is not in the mood to play, but when she doesn't come out, he assumes she must have gone shopping. With Lilith gone, Yuri decides to enjoy his alone time with snacks and sugary soft drinks. Meanwhile, Lilith decides to cook sori fish for dinner, but even after visiting multiple shops, she fails to find it in the supermarkets in their city. The shopkeepers explain that this fish has been in short supply these days and sells out immediately, which makes her realize she won't find it here. Eventually, she heads to the next city to buy it. On the other hand, Yuri starts getting worried about Lilith and whines about how she didn't even contact him if she was running late. After moping for a bit, he calls her on her phone, only to find it at home. That's when his paranoia becomes worse, and he fears that she may have left him too. At the same time, Lilith finally finds the fish she was looking for, but when she realizes how late it has become, she discovers that she did not bring her phone. She tries to get home quickly, but the bus doesn't arrive for the next whole hour. Just as she is anxiously waiting, Fujisaki spots her at the bus stop while getting some goods for Suukasa, and offers her a ride home. On their way, Fujisaki asks why Lilith didn't just buy the fish at her local market, only to learn that it wasn't available. She then asks Lilith if she really thinks it's okay for her to be here, to which she says that she will be fine. Back home, just as Yuri starts feeling even more lonely, Lilith finally arrives and quickly apologizes for not contacting him and for being late, only to find that he is crying. He asks if she has cast a curse on him using her witchcraft, because of which he can't relax when she isn't here. When she wasn't here, he was just fine, even in this dark and isolated mansion, but ever since she arrived, he could not help but feel anxious if she wasn't here. He suddenly lashes out that he cannot live without her, so she isn't allowed to leave again. Lilith is completely embarrassed by this declaration, so she gently takes his hand and admits that she did cast a curse on him, before congratulating him on surviving one day without her. Meanwhile, Suukasa draws a Barbie-inspired sketch and asks Fujisaki to consider wearing a racy dress like this. However, she replies that she will be submitting her resignation letter tonight, as her parents don't pay her enough to put up with her crap. A few days later, Lilith recalls that she came to live with Yuri because she wanted him to grow up healthy and happy. However, all he has been growing is more and more suspicious of her. She believes that to ensure this doesn't affect him negatively, she will have to learn more about him, so she starts tracing his every move. As this turns her into a full-time stalker, Yuri finally lashes out and tells her to quit following him, to which Lilith says that it's only fair because he keeps stalking her too. However, the pea-brained loser just accuses her of trying to find out his weaknesses and runs away. When Lilith follows after him, she trips and falls right on top of him, giving him a taste of her juicy melons. As soon as she pulls back, Yuri blushes and states that he will never let her out of his sight because she always does clumsy stuff like this. Later that day, as Lilith feels depressed because of her failed attempts at acting like a grown-up to support Yuri, she asks him if he ever gets tired of watching her. However, this backfires, and he yaps that he cannot help but watch her because no matter what she does, she looks gorgeous in his eyes. The honesty becomes too hard to handle, so she hides herself in a room, all while she blushes and swears that she will be the one to sweep Yuri off his feet next time. Later that day, while she is doing the laundry, Lilith realizes he is watching her again, so, in an attempt to act like someone he can depend on, she tells him she knows all about his feelings. The sight of her marshmallows makes Yuri lose his mind again, so he says it's suspicious how someone as hot as her is trying to get to know him. This makes Lilith blush again, and she finally gives up on trying to take the upper hand. Later, she worries about how she can get close to Yuri and comes up with a plan to get to know him better. She asks if they can play together, and seeing the tempting expression on her face, Yuri says that they don't need to play something for him to have fun, as he's always having fun whenever she is around. However, after Lilith insists, he takes her to his father's study and starts a game of chess, explaining how it's his favorite game as it was taught to him by his father. As the lore dump continues, he explains that even though both his parents loved him, they were always busy and didn't have much time for him. In a flashback, little Yuri argues with his mother because he wants to play with his father, but she explains to him that he is busy and instead offers to teach him how to cook. Yuri reminds her that her cooking skills are even worse than a toddler's, so she swears she will make the best pudding ever and leaves the room. This gives him a chance to sneak into his father's study, and when he does, his father welcomes him and teaches him chess. He explains how the queen is the strongest piece of the game, and compares it to his mother, saying that she is the strongest person in their household too. This cringe fest gets interrupted when his mother angrily enters the room and scolds Yuri for disturbing his father. However, he makes her anger disappear by revealing that his father just called her the queen of their house, which makes her giggle like an idiot in love. Later, Yuri takes both his parents' hands and goes to eat the horrible puddings his mother has made for them, the memory of which makes him smile to this day. After hearing his sob story, Lilith quickly gets up and swears that she will always be here to play with him whenever he feels like playing. This rizzes him up, and they end up playing until late at night. The next day, Yuri receives an invitation from school, because of which he keeps acting distant and depressed for the whole day. To make him feel better, Lilith makes him some homemade pudding and imagines how flustered he will be after he sees this. However, all her scheming turns out to be useless when Yuri just takes the pudding and quietly thanks her before heading back inside his study. Seeing that Yuri did not question her motives or accuse her of witchcraft and brainwashing shatters Lilith's entire world, and she starts thinking that something might really be wrong with him. However, since she still wants him to feel suspicious of her, she follows him around the entire day in hopes that he will come out and tell her to touch grass. But after Yuri completely ignores her existence, she starts thinking that he has lost interest in her and found somebody else. Just then, Yuri comes out of his room and hands Lilith a document that looks like a death sentence to her from afar. However, it turns out to be an invitation to an open house event at his school. He tells Lilith that since servants and maids are allowed to attend this event, it would mean the world to him if she could attend, since she's all he has. Even though he doesn't want anyone else to see him or steal her from him, he still wants her to attend the event. Lilith blushes, saying she thought he lost interest in her, so Yuri reassures her that it could never happen, as all he did today was think about how to break this news to her. Later that day, Lilith tries on a bunch of clothes while recalling the little pep talk Yuri gave her before about what kind of clothes she should wear to his school. According to him, she should not wear anything fancy as it would make all the other gooners in his class completely obsessed with her. So Lilith tries on a dress that makes her look like a nun and another that makes her look like a hoe, only to finally give up on finding the right clothes. The following day, as Yuri worries about whether or not Lilith found the right dress for herself, he sees a couple pass him by, which reminds him of his own parents. It turns out that even though they both loved him very much, they rarely attended his school events, as they used to be super busy. Later in class, Yuri anxiously waits for Lilith to show up, but even after multiple parents walk into the class, Lilith never does. His paranoia strikes again, so he brainwashes himself, saying that even if she doesn't come, he's strong enough to survive on his own. But just then, the door slides open and Lilith walks in, wearing a butler's uniform, and Yuri's face lights up. Meanwhile, Lilith recalls how she asked Fujisaki to lend her some clothes at the last moment, for which she feels glad. That evening, as Lilith and Yuri walk home together, she apologizes for being late, only for Yuri to thank her for coming and making his day. Later at home, Yuri tells Lilith that she looked like a diva in that butler uniform, which makes her heart skip a beat. A few days later, as Yuri runs around the house like a madman, Lilith asks if he forgot to take his pills, only to learn that he has his annual sports festival coming up. Upon learning this, Lilith offers to help him with practice and starts chanting a cringe cheer, which Yuri obviously finds too adorable. He says that if she continues to cheer on him, he will definitely win first place. However, he would prefer if she doesn't cheer him on when they are at school, as other gooners might develop a crush on her too. The next morning, Lilith visits his school to pick him up, but Yuri reminds her he's a strong, independent boy who can return home on his own. Lilith says she was missing him, only for him to start blurting how much he was thinking about her throughout his classes, which makes Lilith blush and mumble that he might fail his grade if this keeps up. Meanwhile, Tsukasa stalks them from afar, fangirling over how cringe they still are, when Fujisaki appears from behind her and tells her to start acting like a lady. Tsukasa says she will never understand the heart of a gooner if she continues to act like a constipated Giga Chad all the time, only for Fujisaki to put on her Prince Charming face and ask Tsukasa to return home with her. The girl instantly gets rizzed up and asks Fujisaki to continue acting like this, but she curtly refuses. Later that afternoon, Yuri is fascinated by the newest snack Lilith has made for him. She explains that these are fancy biscuits named financiers, which Yuri has never had because even though his parents worked all the time, they were flat broke. Just then, Yuri notices a notebook in Lilith's hand and learns that she's taking notes to help him with the upcoming sports day. She also offers to prepare a personal training plan for him to train his body before the exam, but Yuri's virgin mind doesn't understand she's flirting. So he simply thanks her and says he's excited for the sports festival now. Later that day, Lilith tests Yuri's throwball skills, only to learn he's just a loudmouth with no skill. She shows him how it's done and does it effortlessly. However, when Yuri tries to follow her example, the Giga Chad cat from before gets in his way. After this, she teaches him how to position his body during tug of war, only for Yuri to fail that miserably too. Lilith reassures him that this is day one, and he will eventually learn, which Yuri agrees with too. She then times him while he practices for the 100-meter race, while reciting an internal monologue about how he will impress Lilith on the big day. However, his chances to show off get ruined by the Giga Chad cat once again, who is still getting his revenge for the leftover fish he never got fed. Later that night, as Yuri finally lies in his bed after an entire day of proving none of his ancestors had an athletic bone in their body, Lilith offers him a full-body massage. She starts with his legs, and Yuri cannot believe how good she is with her hands, so he questions if this is one of her voodoo spells too. Lilith says it's not, because she just knows what makes him feel good, only for Yuri to blurt that he wants to know what makes her feel good too, which makes Lilith blush. From the next day onward, Yuri practices for his sports festival relentlessly, while Lilith supports him to the best of her abilities. Meanwhile, Tsukasa meets up with Fujisaki and asks her to visit the sports festival with her, as both her parents will be busy, and she doesn't want to go alone. To increase the dramatic effect, she even starts crying and says that at the end of the day, she is just a little girl who wants her parents' attention. Fujisaki quickly reaches for her hands and promises to attend the festival with her, which moves Tsukasa so much that she hugs her. Just then, Tsukasa accidentally drops the bottle of fake tears that she used to gaslight Fujisaki, which pisses off the butler. On the day of the sports festival, Yuri wakes up earlier than expected and sneaks into the kitchen, only to find Lilith preparing a lunchbox for him at 5 in the morning. After quietly returning to his room, Yuri dresses up for the day and asks Lilith to wear whatever she would be comfortable in for the sports festival. Later that day, as the festival begins, Yuri mentally prepares himself for the tug of war, while Tsukasa feels happy about the confident look on his face. However, some jobless bullies come up and tell Yuri not to make them lose with his terrible luck, which pisses Tsukasa off. However, Yuri quickly tells them off, which makes Tsukasa wonder where this confidence is coming from. Just then, she spots Lilith on the benches, cheering for Yuri, and she finally understands the full picture. However, her innocent fantasies quickly turn adult-rated when Lilith tells Yuri that if he wins, she will reward him. Tsukasa realizes that she needs to support Yuri in this tug of war if she wants her biggest ship to finally sail, but when she wishes him good luck, he notices her nose bleeding and tells her she needs professional help. Soon enough, as the game begins, Yuri and Tsukasa win, so she tells him that he will now get his reward from Lilith. Yuri says all he wants is for her to feel proud of him, which touches Tsukasa. Just then, Lilith runs up to Yuri and calls him amazing for winning the race. This sends Tsukasa into a depressive spiral as she cannot believe how adorable her favorite couple is. Later that day, Fujisaki asks Lilith if she would be okay being out in the open like this, but she says that she will be fine, all while Yuri wins race after race. Later, as the gang has lunch together, Tsukasa asks if she can try Lilith's sandwiches too, which the maid gladly allows. One bite of it makes Tsukasa tease Yuri about how perfect his future waifu is. However, he's more worried about whether it was an inconvenience for Lilith to wake up so early to make him a lunchbox and then visit him at his school too. Lilith reassures him that she is happy to do it for him, only for him to smirk and ask if she can race. It turns out that the school has hosted a race for parents and guardians too, and Lilith is registered as a participant. Before the race begins, Lilith wonders about what she is to Yuri, but doesn't find a conclusion as the race begins. She crosses all the obstacles easily, but gets slowed down when another mom trips over her and loses her confidence. Just then, Yuri starts cheering on her, so with the cliched power of love, she ends up winning first place, even defeating Fujisaki, the certified Giga Chad. When Yuri congratulates her, Lilith pulls down her zipper to bless his eyes with some fan service. However, they get interrupted by some losers who are salty because Yuri's maid won the race instead of their parents. However, Yuri quickly defends her, calling Lilith his only family, which deeply touches the girl. A few days later, as Lilith shops for some veggies to make dinner, she thinks about what Yuri said about her at the sports festival and smiles to herself. Meanwhile, Yuri gets startled by the sudden rain and starts worrying about Lilith. Just then, she returns home all drenched in rainwater, looking extra hot, but Yuri is more concerned about her health, so he quickly brings her some towels. As soon as she wipes her with it, Lilith asks if he would like to take a bath with her, but the idiot quickly turns her down, saying they can't do it until they get married. Knowing full well that turning this offer down would haunt him until he is 75, Yuri walks away, leaving Lilith flustered by the sudden marriage proposal. The next morning, when Lilith brings him some tea, he spits it out because she accidentally added salt instead of sugar. She apologizes for messing this up and goes straight to cleaning. However, she clumsily drops a book on top of her head, which makes Yuri panic over her mental condition. Noticing that her nose is bleeding, he tells her to take a break, but she just wipes it clean and heads straight to doing laundry. Yuri cannot believe Lilith, of all people, is acting so strange, but before he can make sense of anything, Lilith collapses on the floor. He quickly reaches for her, only to realize she is burning up a fever. When he mentions this to her, Lilith says she was feeling hot anyway and offers to take off her clothing, but Yuri has had enough at this point, so he drags her to her room and finally tucks her in. After this, Yuri looks for ways to help her condition, but Lilith's fever has gotten to her head, so she tells him not to look around a woman's room so much. While he is yelling at her to quit teasing him, Lilith gets out of bed and starts crying out loud, saying that she is supposed to take care of him, which she cannot do if she has to lie in bed all day. She worries that he might kick her out if she becomes useless all of a sudden, so Yuri hugs her and reassures her that he will never do such a thing. The next day, Lilith feels much better, but even so, Yuri tells her not to push herself too much, which makes her blush. From then on, as Lilith starts cleaning the house, Yuri insists on helping her, stating that he is practically useless at home, so the least he can do is help her with these tasks. She even shows off her flirty face and says she will take care of all of his needs, but Yuri is a practical man, so he tells her the tasks will be done more quickly if they do it together. He also says that he doesn't want her to overwork anymore, as he would rather spend more time with her than watch her do chores. This rizzes her up so bad that she gives up on arguing. Later that day, after completing all the chores, Yuri sneezes, worrying Lilith that he might have caught her cold. She quickly brings him a blanket and asks if he's feeling hot, only for him to stare at her exposed fur balls and wonder how she doesn't feel cold. Lilith explains she wears clothes like these so that he can notice her womanly charms more, but Yuri throws the blanket on her and tells her to cover up so she doesn't catch a cold again. A few days later, Tsukasa invites Yuri and Lilith to her Halloween party, which makes Lilith wonder if he and Tsukasa have become too close lately. Yuri is confused, so Lilith says that it's lovely how good a friend she is to him, which makes Yuri blush. He then goes back to the project at hand, and when Lilith says she will make him the sage costume by hand, he can't help but admire how skillful she is. She smiles and asks what kind of stone he would prefer in his staff, but Yuri asks her to choose it for him instead. He then asks what she will dress up as, which turns on her sadistic mode, making her wonder if he wants to see her in a freaky costume. Yuri unexpectedly says that he does, clearly misunderstanding her flirting, which turns Lilith into a blushing mess. When the big day arrives, Lilith dresses up as a freaky dragon, while Yuri dresses up as a sage in a Hogwarts knockoff uniform. Suakasa greets them, dressed as a gender-bent Prince Charming, while Fujisaki is still playing the role of a constipated sidekick. Seeing them together ignites Suakasa's questionable fantasies again, but eventually, she welcomes them into her house, which is decorated with all the treats one could find. Later, as Yuri eats a fancy pastry offered by Suakasa, he can't help but act like a broke guy who has never had fancy sweets before. He then thanks Suakasa for inviting them, before turning to Lilith and thanking her for sewing his costume and for choosing the color of his staff. Meanwhile, Lilith smiles, refusing to reveal that she chose green because it's the color of Yuri's eyes. Later, the gang grabs Fujisaki and dresses her up as Cinderella to compliment Suakasa's prince, which makes the butler blush like crazy. However, Suakasa doesn't care and simply grabs her and dances, while the other two smile at them. The following day at school, Suakasa hands Yuri a bunch of photographs from their Halloween party, so he thanks her. Meanwhile, as Lilith is finishing her chores, she receives a letter from the mailman, which quickly makes her smile disappear. On the other hand, Yuri recalls how close he has been to Lilith lately and quickly runs home, eager to see his future waifu. However, when he gets home, he notices that Lilith is hiding something from him, which makes him so curious that he outright asks her to tell him what's up. Lilith says they will talk about it later and asks him to have dinner first, all while Yuri's anxiety skyrockets. Just then, Lilith recalls the first time she came to the mansion and says that she is very glad that she did. However, it is now time for her to leave, as her original employer has found out she is here. She tells Yuri that today is the last time that they will see each other, which breaks Yuri's heart. He quickly tells her she isn't going anywhere as he is her master, and she cannot leave without lifting her curse off of him, which makes his heart pound at the sight of her. This rizzes her up so bad that she quickly throws the letter from her employer into the dustbin and says she will stay if he asks her to, which makes Yuri hug her tightly with teary eyes. A few days later, Yuri's teacher asks everyone in class to draw a pie chart of their everyday activities, and unsurprisingly, his sole activity turns out to be watching Lilith. During lunch break, Suakasa notices he looks like he just lost his will to live, so she asks what's the reason behind it, only to learn he is stressed because his entire day revolves around thinking about his maid. Suakasa's love meter shoots up, so she quickly asks him to tell her more, and this begins Yuri's very first therapy session. He begins by recalling how Lilith makes his heart flutter and chest tight, which makes a blood fountain shoot out of Suakasa's nose. She quickly fixes that and asks him to spill more tea, only for Yuri to go on and on about how much he likes watching her work, especially her violet eyes that just draw him in. However, what he deduces from all of this is that Lilith is suspicious, much to Suakasa's dismay. She quickly gives him her expert opinion on his absurd condition, and explains that he is in love, all while praising the Wattpad gods for letting her live her fantasies in real life. Yuri, on the other hand, ignores her diagnosis and continues to yap about how he feels happy when she does, and when she's talking to someone else, he feels like a toxic, jealous boyfriend. Suakasa listens to all of this curiously, but then he says that he might be sick, which completely throws her off. Later, she calmly explains that his condition isn't some illness, but it's something that she has read about in her very authentic Wattpad-inspired books, so she can confidently say that what he feels is love. However, instead of blushing and getting all defensive, Yuri becomes confused, wondering what in the world love is. He later returns home to Lilith, who tries her hardest to flirt with him, stating that she was lonely when he was away. However, he completely ignores her and walks past her, lost in his thoughts. Worrying that he might be done with her due to her weird antics, Lilith tries again and offers to warm him up with her body in this chilly weather. But Yuri ignores this too, which is contradictory to his usual reactions. This worries her, so she grabs Yuri's hand and wonders if he is sick or something, making him question why she thinks so. Lilith almost says it's because he didn't lose his mind when she offered herself to him for lunch, but the police sirens become too loud in her ears, so she shuts up. Instead, she asks about what he is thinking, but Yuri tells her it's a secret, making her confused. The following day at school, Suakasa offers to continue Yuri's love pep talk at her mansion, and later takes him there. The broke boy is stunned to see the high-class maids and the architecture, and quietly offers Suukasa the cookies Lilith baked for her as a gift. Suukasa is so delighted that she takes Yuri to her garden and throws him a tea party, all while Yuri continues to glaze Lilith's culinary skills, stating that even Gordon Ramsay can't compete with her cooking. This makes Suukasa wonder if they should invite Lilith to their tea party too, but Yuri says they shouldn't, otherwise she might leave him and come live with Suukasa instead, as her house is bigger and she is richer. Saying this out loud makes Yuri worry about never being able to give Lilith the life that she deserves, but Suukasa reassures him that Lilith feels really happy when she is with him, so there is no way that she will leave him to stay with her. This makes Yuri smile in relief, while his cheeks blush, so Suukasa brings him back to the original pep talk on love and brings out her precious forbidden love novels to increase his knowledge. However, Fujisaki confiscates her novels before Yuri can even touch them, leaving him with no choice but to return home for the day. That day, when Yuri returns home, Lilith greets him with a big smile, which makes him feel proud for some reason. The next day, Yuri's art teacher assigns them a project, so he returns home and asks Lilith to let him draw her portrait, while thinking that he will finally figure her out if he draws her well enough. Lilith, on the other hand, is so intrigued by the idea that she starts making poses and asks if he would prefer if she flashes the Titanic pose instead. However, Yuri is a dumb idiot, so he tells her to sit down on a chair and let him draw her like he normally sees her, because that is the version of her that he likes the most. This unexpectedly rizzes her up too, so she does as he tells her to, while Yuri begins his first project as the anime version of Van Gogh. Lilith says that even though he likes the regular version of her the most, it doesn't mean that this is who she really is, but Yuri says that it doesn't matter because he will definitely find out who she really is one day. Later, once the portrait is done, Lilith praises Yuri for his impressive skills. However, he isn't satisfied with the result and erases it, saying that he hasn't done justice to Lilith's godly beauty at all. As a result of his perfectionism, he stays up the whole night and wakes up with eye bags under his eyes the next day. Lilith jokes that he must have lost sleep because she is too pretty for him to draw, but Yuri agrees with her with a straight face, stating that he couldn't sleep because he kept thinking about her in the Titanic pose. Hearing this, Lilith blushes and takes full responsibility for putting him to sleep that night, as she doesn't want his progress to be hindered at school just because he is sleepy. That night, she tries to help him sleep with the help of scented candles, warm blankets, and even offers her lap to help him sleep. However, Yuri turns her down, saying that he doesn't want her thighs to hurt from his weight. Having failed plan A, Lilith tries to use warm eye masks and soothing music to help him sleep, but that fails too, leaving her with only one option. She half-jokingly offers to sleep next to him, but Yuri instantly takes up on the offer, stating that he cannot wait to sleep with her. This takes her by shock, making her wonder if he's talking about plot development, but Yuri just falls asleep as soon as he lies next to her, while mumbling generic questions about who she is and what she is doing in his house. Lilith tries to ease his mind by reciting a lullaby, which somehow feels familiar to Yuri, reminding him of his mother and a mysterious girl from his childhood. He wakes up the following morning feeling well rested, but neither does he remember the lullaby, nor the mysterious girl from childhood. Later that day, he wins the first prize in art for the portrait he drew of Lilith, making his hopeless crush finally come in handy. The next morning, Yuri has a flashback of young Lilith and him making a flower ring for her. He wakes up to Lilith removing the curtains and asks why she is here, even though today is supposed to be her day off. Lilith says that she cannot neglect her morning duties and goes straight to preparing breakfast while Yuri is left confused about his dream. Later, as he is working in his study, Lilith shows up in a casual dress, which makes him drop the pencil and stare at her with his mouth gaping. He quickly gets paranoid, wondering where she is going after dressing up so much, and suspects she'll be out on a date after leaving his mansion. Even so, he lets her go. Later that day, when Lilith reaches the city, she smells a bakery and buys some fancy pastries with Yuri in mind. Later, she heads to a cafe where she waits for her supposed date, all while she overthinks what Yuri must be doing by himself. Just then, her date, who turns out to be Fujisaki, shows up, dressed in her casual clothes as well. Fujisaki reveals that she is on her day off too, and makes fun of Lilith for thinking about Yuri on her day off too. This makes Lilith wonder if she doesn't worry about Suukasa, which Fujisaki agrees with, stating that that brat has her own fetishes to keep herself entertained. This statement makes Lilith anxious, as she believes it's weird for her to keep thinking about Yuri, but Fujisaki tells her to calm down, as it isn't that big a deal. This reminds Lilith of Fujisaki's notorious baddie image, so she mentions that she has changed a lot compared to her past self, making her suspect that it happened after she met Suukasa and wanted to change for her sake. Fujisaki doesn't deny this and blushes, telling Lilith not to make her embarrassed. She also advises Lilith that instead of looking at other people's relationships as a reflection of her own, she should try to open her heart to Yuri instead, starting with revealing her real identity to him. This shocks Lilith, as she cannot see herself doing it, but Fujisaki recalls her old days as a certified introvert as well, and praises her for finding the strength to talk about her feelings. Just then, she starts getting messages from Suakasa, asking her to spill the tea, so Fujisaki takes this as her cue to leave. However, before leaving, she tells Lilith that it is time for her to tell Yuri the truth about herself, which Lilith agrees with. However, it turns out that Yuri had followed Lilith after assuming she would be meeting up with a date, and he had overheard her conversation with Fujisaki. This revelation makes him paranoid once again, and he starts overthinking about what she could be hiding from him. Just then, a nearby mother starts singing a lullaby to her baby, which Yuri recognizes as the lullaby that his mother used to sing him, and also the one Lilith sang for him last night. This refreshes his memory and finally reminds him of Lilith from when they met when they were younger. However, it is still pretty hazy. Later that day, as Lilith returns home with a bunch of souvenirs, Yuri doesn't pay attention to anything but hyperfixates on the conversation she had with Fujisaki, shamefully revealing that he eavesdropped on them. He tries to cover it up by saying he thought she was looking so cute that he suspected she would be meeting someone better than him, before revealing that he finally remembers meeting her when they were younger. As Lilith gets startled at the revelation, Yuri reveals that she was brought to their house by his father when he was younger and knew his mother's lullaby because she sang it to her too. Yuri wonders why she didn't tell him something so important yet, so Lilith replies that it's because she didn't want him to think she was a weirdo. She says she also wanted him to remember her on his own, so Yuri grabs her hand, swearing that he will never hate her for such a stupid reason or forget her origin story. As these two reconcile, Yuri tries to recreate the memory of him making her a ring out of flowers. However, it doesn't fix his dementia. Just then, Lilith reminds him he is running late for school, so he quickly gets ready and decides to make her another ring later. At school, Suakasa notices that Yuri's mood has significantly improved, so she wonders if he has made some kind of progress with Lilith. The boy says that they slept together with a straight face, which sends Suakasa to cloud 9, as she cannot believe Yuri has already taken his next big step while she is still stuck on her dark romance novels. She immediately asks about when and where he confessed to her, but when Yuri doesn't answer, she assumes they started the relationship in the wrong sequence, which messes with her brain chemistry even more. So, once again, she tells Yuri that he is, without a doubt, in love with his maid. This is the reason why he is so curious about who she is and what she is doing, and for once, Yuri finally understands what she means by it. He quickly grabs his bag and runs home, while thinking about how much he needs to tell Lilith that he is madly in love with her, just so he can heal some of her anxiety. He eventually finds her sweeping the leaves off his front porch, and tells her he is madly in love with her, along with her beautiful voice when it wakes him up, and her beautiful eyes that hypnotize him. Lilith blushes as the police sirens become louder and louder, but thankfully, before she confesses that she loves him back, another baddie enters the picture and tells Lilith to return to her old workplace at once. This jobless chick turns out to be Natsume, a maid who used to work with Lilith at her old workplace. After she creates a scene on Yuri's front porch, the couple brings her inside and gives her a cup of tea. However, she insists that Lilith just return home with her and leave this rundown place behind. Lilith advises the brat to behave, but she goes on and on about how trashy this mansion is and how disappointing it is that a maid of her caliber is working for free for a shrimp like Yuri. Although Yuri is offended at the nickname, he still asks Natsume not to take Lilith away from him, as he is the master of the house and Lilith is all he has. But instead of taking pity on his earnest request, she calls him a good-for-nothing runt who cannot give Lilith what she deserves. She tells him to let Lilith join her and get her old job back because, in this way, she gets to work under a dependable adult and also makes money worth her time and effort. However, that's when Lilith intervenes and politely tells Natsume to leave her alone, as she will never return to the old mansion, no matter how much she tries to convince her. This makes Natsume have a full-on meltdown as she reminds Lilith that she is the one who cares about her the most, not this shrimp she calls her master, before stating that she will be testing Yuri about his knowledge, or lack thereof, to assess whether he is a suitable househead or not. As Yuri prepares himself for her burning questions, Natsume tells him to explain the theory of relativity to him, which he says he doesn't know yet. Natsume calls him a dumb loser, but when he asks if she knows what it is, she stutters like a dumb loser too, failing this step. Natsume then mentions that money is far more important than knowledge, so Yuri pulls out his piggy bank, stating that even though it doesn't have much yet, he will definitely buy Lilith a nice gift once he has saved up enough. Natsume calls him a broke, hopeless romantic, but when Lilith asks her about her finances, she turns out to be a bigger beggar than Yuri. Having lost so badly, Natsume throws a tantrum and accidentally shatters a lamp, only for Yuri to ask her to step back, while expressing gratitude over her being unharmed. Natsume calls him a weirdo for not being angry that she broke something that belonged to him, but Yuri says he is just glad no one is hurt. She then turns to Lilith and tells her not to listen to this cunning, deceptive boy, as he could never be worthy of being her master. However, Lilith has had enough, so she tells her to zip it and think twice before insulting Yuri again. She also acknowledges the history they have had together, but asks Natsume to respect her wishes now. Natsume insists that she just wants her to be happy. This reminds Yuri of the love pep talk that Tsukasa gave him, so he asks Natsume if she is in love with Lilith too. This makes her have the meltdown of a century, but Yuri leaves her speechless when he explains that since he wants her to stay with him because he loves her, Natsume must love her too if she wants Lilith to move in with her instead. This entire conversation makes Lilith blush bright red, all while Natsume cannot believe Yuri is sprouting so many embarrassing words without feeling a shred of shyness. Yuri, on the other hand, believes that if he never puts his feelings into words, how will the other person ever know what he feels, which finally convinced Natsume to be honest. She states that it is true she came here to make sure Lilith was living a good life, as she loves her and wants her to have the life that she deserves. However, she tells Yuri his sweet words won't deceive her, and she will leave here with Lilith, no matter what. The following day, after Yuri leaves for school, Lilith quickly grabs her broom to clean the house. Meanwhile, Natsume watches this scene while recalling that back in her mansion, maids are assigned smaller tasks, which are much easier to do than cleaning the whole house single-handedly. She tries to help Lilith, but the maid tells her to sit back and relax, as she is a guest in this house. So, over the next few hours, Natsume sulks and watches as Lilith effortlessly cleans and cooks, and even makes time to prepare some tea for her. Natsume asks if she feels miserable here, as she has to work the whole day. However, Lilith says she is happy to do so for Yuri's sake. That's when Natsume realizes that the problem isn't the workload, but Yuri and his cunning tongue. Just then, the devil shows up drenched in sweat and admits to Lilith that he ran all the way from school because he couldn't wait to see her. This shocks Natsume and embarrasses Lilith, but Yuri goes on and reveals that he also couldn't focus in class as he kept thinking about Lilith and what she could be up to. Just as he tells the maid that he loves her today too, Natsume's brain almost short-circuits from embarrassment. However, when she sees the blush on Lilith's face, something shifts within her. She later admits to herself that she has never seen Lilith look so in love before. However, Yuri spoils her overthinking session by questioning her skills as a maid after noticing that all she's been doing is sitting around and eating snacks, instead of doing maid-like things. This pisses her off so badly that she sprints straight into the kitchen and burns a few dishes, before messing up the laundry and turning the entire house into a disaster. Lilith eventually tells her to stay put, and even Yuri tells her not to push herself too hard. However, Natsume insists on proving her competence to him and grabs a water bucket, only to trip and fall over Lilith, drenching them both. Even though it makes Natsume feel disappointed in herself, Lilith starts laughing as she recalls how bad Natsume was at house chores even before, and she always had to step in to help her. Just then, Yuri steps in like a boss and orders both the girls to go and take a warm bath, otherwise, they would either catch a cold or smell bad. Lilith asks Natsume if she would like to bathe with her, and despite being embarrassed at first, she agrees. Later in the shower, Lilith thanks Natsume for suddenly showing up, as she admits that she still has no idea how she should respond to Yuri's affection. Natsume laughs, explaining that, to her, it seems that Lilith already knows her answer, because she has never seen her look as happy as when she did after Yuri confessed to her. This completely flusters Lilith, and she starts wondering if she's always acting like such an open book in front of Yuri too, all while Natsume smirks and admits to herself that seeing Lilith like this has been nothing short of a blessing. The next day, Lilith walks into Natsume's room, only to find it empty. However, her attention is soon drawn to a magazine lying nearby filled with ideas for Christmas gifts. At school, Yuri talks to Tsukasa about his relationship progress, and she loses it when he mentions that they have a new member in the family. To her, the story is no longer a normal slice of life but a dark romance. However, Yuri clears up the misunderstanding by telling her about Natsume, but it's still not enough to calm her delusions. The girl says that the story has now evolved into a full romance drama with rivals and jealousy, instead of a plain old love story. Meanwhile, Natsume is waiting for Yuri outside, and upon finding him with a girl, she immediately starts planting allegations on him. Then she notices Fujisaki nearby, and her insane aura almost makes her piss her maid's gown. She comes back to her senses when Yuri asks what she's doing there, so she takes him along and walks off. While they talk on their way, Natsume is disappointed to know he has no scandal with the Tsukasa girl, but then she reveals something that catches Yuri off guard. Apparently, Natsume plans to head back home, but before leaving, she wants to surprise Lilith with a Christmas gift to make it memorable. Just then, Yuri runs into some older boys who decide that bullying an orphan sounds fun. They start messing with Yuri for making them drop their steam bun, but Natsume intervenes before things escalate. She stares at those boys with such terrifying intensity that it scares them into another dimension, and they run away. The girl is impressed that Yuri stood his ground against those idiots despite being a wimp, but he says he'll return the favor by doing anything she wants. Grabbing the opportunity, she asks for his help with the surprise Christmas party for Lilith, and he agrees. Upon returning home, Lilith tells Natsume she should have told her if she planned to pick up Yuri from school. However, she makes up some excuse and heads to Yuri's room for the planning. Later, when Lilith takes some refreshments to them, she finds them arguing over her cute and mature side. While Yuri claims that cute things suit her better, Natsume says that her maturity is what makes her stand out. Although embarrassed, Lilith is glad that they're finally getting along. After this, the duo goes over their plan in detail. Yuri will tell Lilith that he already has plans to spend Christmas with Tsukasa, while Natsume keeps Lilith occupied by taking her out for the day. During that time, Yuri will stay behind to decorate the house and prepare everything for the surprise party. Later that night, while having dinner together, Yuri finally tells Lilith about his supposed Christmas plans with Tsukasa. Although Lilith tries her best to act unbothered, the disappointment on her face is impossible to miss. Her reaction makes Yuri feel guilty, especially since he has always been honest with her and hates lying, but he forces himself to stick to the plan for the sake of the surprise. The next day, Yuri asks Tsukasa to help him with his master plan, so the nerd starts blabbing about how he can go all out with an extravagant post-party fun with his beloved maid. Soon, it's Christmas Day, and Lilith worries about Yuri going alone to Tsukasa's place, but he assures her that he'll be fine. As soon as they both leave, Tsuka shows up in her Sherlock Holmes attire with Fujisaki to help him out. Later, Fujisaki takes charge of the party, assigning Tsukasa to do the decorations, which she absolutely hates, while Yuri bakes the cake. As he applies white cream onto it, Fujisaki notices some of it on his nose and cleans it up for him. Yuri comments that she's surprisingly considerate, but she says she's used to it since Tsukasa is rather clumsy. Just then, Tsukasa sneakily takes a picture of the unusual duo, but her butler confiscates her camera while she throws a tantrum. Then the little mess asks if she can help with the cake as well, so Fujisaki tells her to decorate it with strawberries. Meanwhile, Natsume is internally fighting for her life because she has absolutely no idea how to start a conversation with Lilith. In desperation, she pulls out Google and starts searching for conversation topics like the socially awkward menace she is. Unfortunately, every suggestion she finds is either painfully awkward or straight up useless, so none of it helps. Suddenly, she spots a crepe stall and suggests they try it, but as luck would have it, she trips and lands face first on the ground, getting a nosebleed. Later, as Lilith offers her a tissue, Natsume tries to apologize, but Lilith thanks her instead. She says she's grateful for everything she did to lift up her mood when she'd rather spend Christmas with someone she loves. Lilith then explains she saw her magazine to look for gifts and figured she wanted to give it to her loved one. Natsume tries to explain that it was actually for her, but decides not to since it'll ruin the surprise. The duo then spends the rest of the time enjoying themselves to the fullest, and while heading home, Natsume gives Lilith the gift she got for her. Lilith opens it to find a beautiful pen and is genuinely touched by the gesture. The girl then tells her to write her letters every once in a while with this pen after she returns home, and Lilith promises to do so. As they arrive outside the mansion, Natsume is immediately confused when she sees all the lights turned off, making the whole place feel weirdly quiet. But seconds later, the lights suddenly switch on, revealing breathtaking Christmas decorations that completely transform the mansion. When the girl turns to see Lilith's reaction, she finds that she has vanished somehow. Natsume immediately rushes into the mansion, only to be surprised by party poppers. As she tries to process what's going on, Yuri reveals that he couldn't keep the secret in his stomach and spilled the details to Lilith the other night. However, the maid came up with a plan of her own, suggesting they give Natsume the surprise instead. Natsume realizes that she was being played all along and falls to the ground in delight. But when Fujisaki asks if she's alright, the girl springs back to her feet within seconds, respectfully greeting her. The young ones decide to go all out with the celebration, and the party quickly turns into pure chaos. They spend the rest of the time playing games and absolutely destroying the food. After the party ends, Tsukasa is completely knocked out, mumbling weird stuff in her sleep like her brain is still stuck in party mode. Fujisaki, already used to this nonsense, simply picks her up princess style. Before leaving, she thanks everyone, mentioning that her little master had a great time. After Natsume goes to sleep, Lilith and Yuri finally get some alone time. The tiny simp praises the maid for her Oscar-worthy acting, and she says that it was all possible thanks to him. She then asks when he'll give his present to Natsume, and he recalls how long he spent crocheting some lovely pink gloves for her. While she dozes off soundly, Yuri leaves his gift beside her with a note, excited to see what her reaction will be like. The next day, Lilith is doing a massive cleanup after the Christmas party in full maid mode when a car pulls up outside the mansion. As she prepares snacks for Yuri in the kitchen, the doorbell rings, and she opens the door to find someone she addresses as Master. Meanwhile, Natsume is heading home with Yuri, complaining about getting groceries like she was sentenced to hard labor. Yuri reminds her that she chose it herself since she didn't want to clean, making the girl pout. Despite this, she changes the topic, thanking him for making her visit memorable. She shyly admits that with his efforts, she was finally able to convey her feelings to Lilith, which has given her the courage to finally confess to her actual love interest. This takes Yuri by surprise, as he thought she was his rival all along, but Natsume tells him that the love she has for Lilith is different from the one she has for her master. Meanwhile, when Lilith serves the man some tea, he tells her to loosen up, as he only came to see how the mansion and they're doing. Lilith apologizes for the trouble she caused back then, while the man looks around the mansion and remarks that it's insanely clean before asking if she's working this hard because of her past. This is when Lilith decides to drop some tragic lore and reveals that when she was young, her parents disappeared without a trace. She was left alone, and no one wanted to take her in. At that point, Yuri's parents stepped in and changed her life. They took Lilith in and cared for her like she was their own flesh and blood, even offering her to stay for as long as she wanted. That night, Yuri came to her asking who she was, but embarrassed by her appearance, the girl dropped to the ground and covered her flashy eyes. Instead of getting creeped out, Yuri held her face, saying that her eyes are as sparkly as the stars, and told her that she is insanely beautiful. From then onwards, she devoted herself to getting a maid education and repaying their favor someday. After graduating, she got assigned to her former master's mansion, the one she's talking to in the present, where she received news of Yuri's parents' death. Without a second thought, she left everything behind and rushed to be by Yuri's side, not wanting him to share a similar fate as her. This explains why Lilith feels such deep loyalty toward Yuri's family, and why she's so obsessed with protecting him. Later, Yuri arrives home with Natsume and meets Natsume's master. For a moment, fear grips him as he thinks he's come to take Lilith back, but he eases up when the master explains he's simply there to pick Natsume up. While the two leave, he thanks Yuri for taking care of Natsume, but the girl intervenes, saying that it was actually the other way around. When the master asks if they can come back again since Natsume would dearly miss them, Yuri allows them while the girl is folding, thinking how considerate her master is. After they leave, Lilith exclaims all of a sudden, scaring Yuri, only to reveal that she's made dinner for 3 people. Yuri tells her not to worry as he'll eat all of it, complimenting her delicious cooking, and the maid can't help but blush. That night, while having dinner, Lilith remarks that the mansion feels very quiet now that the troublemaker is gone. She then tries talking more, but the conversation dies. Lilith then leaves to get Yuri some more food and realizes that she's feeling nervous now that the two of them are alone. After returning, Lilith suggests they go out on a date the next day, and Yuri is shocked to hear this at first, but then stuffs his face with excitement. The following day, Yuri and Lilith head out for their first date. As they walk, Lilith asks if he feels cold, but Yuri reassures her that the scarf she gave him is keeping him warm. He then notices that Lilith is dressed differently than usual, and she admits that she put in extra effort for their first date. Yuri immediately compliments her, telling her that she looks incredibly beautiful, which catches Lilith off guard and leaves her blushing furiously. Afterwards, they struggle to decide where to eat, so Yuri tells her he is happy with whatever she wants. Touched by this, Lilith suggests going to a cafe, and the two head there together. However, Tsukasa spots them from her car and instantly realizes they are on a date, causing her to dramatically panic and demand that Fujisaki follow them at once. Unfortunately for her, Fujisaki reminds her about the piano lesson she's scheduled to attend, and they drive off. Meanwhile, as they have tea in the cafe, Yuri asks Lilith if she'd be willing to accompany him somewhere he wants to go, and she agrees. Later that day, the duo arrives at Yuri's parents' grave. The boy admits that he was afraid to come here alone, but now that he has Lilith with him, he feels like he can do anything. After telling them how he's been doing, Yuri heads back while Lilith says goodbye to them as well. Later, when they travel in the train, Yuri ends up falling asleep on Lilith's shoulder. Soon, they arrive in town, where Lilith is admiring the decorations while Yuri is busy admiring her. When Lilith finds him staring, she apologizes for getting caught up, but he tells her that it's okay. Yuri then admits he's having a lot of fun now that he has her all to himself. Then he tells her that they must cherish all the time they can spend with each other to the fullest, before grabbing her hand and admitting that he loves her. This makes the girl blush hard, but just to be clear, she asks him what kind of love he feels for her. Yuri says that he doesn't know it yet, but is willing to figure it out going ahead. Lilith also admits that she feels warm whenever she's with him and adores him to bits, not because he's her master but because he is himself. As they walk together, hand in hand, Lilith realizes that she's felt the same way since their first meeting, hoping that Yuri would continue to love her despite knowing everything about her. The next day, the whole place is covered in snow, so Yuri decides to make a snowman. However, he heads out to find that Lilith beat him to it. Despite this, he makes another one, and Lilith finds it cute that he made it look like them. Just then, Yuri says that he'll make them have lots of little ones, and starts making several snowmen while Lilith blushes in surprise, realizing that he doesn't know what he's doing to her. This brings us to the end of Yuri's complicated love life. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more awesome recaps.